During my childhood, my father was often around while my mother was away. I was 5 years old when he passed away. My mother was not with me at that time. After his death, she left me behind, and I found myself being raised by other members of our extended family, mostly my grandparents. They couldn't always be there for me, and I had to learn independence. I tried to keep track of my routine, eating, studying, and going to school. My mother rarely helped me. Sometimes she cooked meals but did not even tell me what she had prepared. Often I had to find something in the refrigerator on my own. My grandparents took care of my upbringing. They celebrated birthdays with me and attended school meetings. My mother, on the other hand, didn't seem to know much about me. She couldn't talk about my school subjects, my favorite food or color, my friends. 5 years ago, Mother met Sam and soon became pregnant. They quickly started living together and then married. They had a child who followed in his mother's footsteps. 2 years ago, I immediately noticed a change in my mother's behavior. She showed care and attention to her younger children. My mom spent time with them, protected and nurtured them, all things I don't remember about myself. She drove her daughter to daycare every day and picked her up and gave her treats afterward. It was disheartening to realize that I had not experienced that kind of motherly love. Seeing her commitment to being a good mother to her youngest, I knew she really wanted to change that. Sam, though not as good as my father, still seemed better than my mom in the years she was with me. Last week, my mom asked me to babysit. I declined, explaining that I was busy with work and seeing friends. She was surprised and asked why I didn't want to spend time with the kids. I replied that I did not wish to spend time with her, not the family as a whole. She insisted, claiming that the kids and Sam were her family and she expected my involvement. I explained that Sam and the kids were her choice, but not my family. I pointed out that she had been the best mother to the younger ones, and she and Sam had created their perfect little family. She had never shown that attitude toward me. I emphasized that I had no interest in helping her with raising the Dover children. It was the longest conversation between us in years, as she usually didn't communicate with me unless she needed something. She resented what I said about Sam and the children, accused me of having a terrible attitude, and hoped that the children would never know how I felt about them. She claimed they deserved better and condemned me for being jealous of their happy family life. I only laughed and said she only cared about them, which was obvious. She called me a nasty little witch. You're right, we're openly discussing this. Your mom wasn't there for you, and it must be painful to see her become the mother you always wanted. You, quite naturally, expressed your feelings, and in response, she berated you. That's wrong. You didn't take your anger out on the kids. Your anger was directed at the one at fault, your mom. She didn't want to hear your truth. Sounds like you're feeling confused, doesn't it? I would suggest you start planning how you can get out of this situation. College is a great opportunity. You can find your chosen family there. I wonder how you can say that about Sam and the kids? No, your mom's wrong. Sam and the kids are different. That's not the family unit you belong to. Your mom is trying to shift the focus from herself to her husband and your siblings. She doesn't want to admit that she is the problem. Why don't you ask her some questions? Ask about your favorite subjects, food, what you did for holidays or birthdays, who was your teacher in 5th grade in 7th grade school, or other questions. When she can't answer, tell her that she only confirmed what you said. It's not about Sam or your siblings, it's all about her. Good luck. You deserve the best, and I hope you find that best. Next story. I am currently in a difficult situation. In the 7th year of our marriage, my wife had a 6-month affair. The disclosure of this affair was a shocking and devastating event for us. In response to her act, she offered me the opportunity to go to the fitness center once a month for each month of her affair. Rebuilding our relationship required several years of divorce counseling. Early in our reconciliation, I decided to take advantage of the offered passes. I ended up spending the night with 2 different women 3 times. My wife made the rules. She was not to know the details of my visits unless she asked. In the event of her questions, I was obligated to answer honestly and in detail. Plus, it was mandatory to use protection and no emotional attachment. I followed all of these rules. Honestly, these visits helped me deal with the resentment I was feeling. Although I am not sure if this approach is the right one, it is the reality. It's been 5 years since those events and everything seemed fine until last week. Suddenly, my wife decided to ask me about absences. I answered every question she asked. However, Perhaps I shouldn't have been so candid. Since then, she has avoided looking into my eyes and is depressed. I realize that we need marriage counseling again and possibly individual counseling. Before her question, I didn't even bring up those absences in women, but now things seem different. You're not an idiot. You were just trying to understand the situation you were in. Your wife probably didn't expect you to take the opportunity you were offered. She offered you something that she thought would assuage her own feelings of guilt. But she didn't actually want you to use it. She made a superficial, self-serving gesture, hoping that you would just forgive her and put it all behind you without any real consequences to her for cheating. You think she only had intimacy 6 times in 6 months during the affair. It shouldn't have been up to her to decide how many hall passes you get. Now you feel guilty. You feel you were treated unfairly. I would suggest that you use your remaining hall passes and don't feel guilty. Using a hall pass is not cheating in your case. Notice how everything revolves around your wife. She cheated because she wanted to. She offered you passes to assuage her guilt. She got sad when you accepted her offer because she didn't want to face the real consequences. Now she'll probably use your hall passes as a way to punish herself. She likes to feel sorry for herself. I'm glad that sleeping with other women is helping you get over the resentment. Unfortunately, it's a distraction from the real problem. If marriage is a contract, your wife has violated the most important terms of it for 6 months. You need to think about your life and ask yourself if she should be a part of it. She made sure to put a bunch of rules and restrictions on the gym passes she so graciously gave you after cheating with another man behind your back for 6 months. It's absolutely ridiculous that she's reacting this way, but now she's upset about it. I'm glad you had fun, and definitely don't let her talk in a way that victimizes her. Honestly, you should have divorced her a long time ago. Now I want to tell a different story. When we got married, we made the decision not to merge our finances completely. We have a joint account. I contribute 3/4 to it, and my wife contributes 1/4. We use this account to pay our mortgage payments, utilities, and groceries. In addition, we each have personal accounts into which we transfer the remainder of our income. Each of us is responsible for our own investments, including automobile expenses. The system has worked smoothly for several years, but recently an unexpected event occurred. My wife came to me in tears. She confessed that she was facing financial difficulties and owed $150,000 on several credit cards and a car loan. The outlook was grim, as without winning the lottery, she would not be able to pay off the debt. I didn't want her to ruin her credit history by declaring bankruptcy. I offered to help by lending her the required amount on strict conditions. I took over the management of her finances. Now she had to ask permission for any purchases over $50. I was confident that such measures would help her get her spending under control until she paid the money back. She objected to these conditions at first, but accepted them when I explained that I would have to sell some assets to cover the debt, which would result in a financial loss for both of us. Last weekend at a reception after a few drinks, some lady suggested organizing a girls' trip. My wife asked if she could join and I said no, pointing out that such an expense would not fit into her current budget. This response sparked an argument in which I was labeled a misogynist and a despot. Some felt that I should have helped her with no strings attached as there should be none in a marriage. It was hurtful that my wife didn't stand up for me in that situation. Edited. When I got home after work, a new argument broke out between us about an upcoming trip. I reminded her that she had no funds in her accounts. She countered that she had an untouchable credit limit left on one of her cards, which she thought would cover the cost of the weekend. In response, I decided to return to the office where I spent the night. Our joint account covers all household expenses. For example, we recently purchased a new set of dishes at Costco, paying for them with funds from our joint account. My wife works full-time and contributes her share to the joint account. The remainder of her income stays with her, and she is free to spend that money as she sees fit. I pay for all of our joint spending, including dinners out and vacations. The bulk of my wife's debt is about $120,000. Half of that amount is the car loan and the rest is interest and late payment penalties. I don't discuss her financial problems with friends to protect her reputation. So far, I have not sold anything to cover her debts. I consult with my financial advisor and broker in this matter to minimize financial and tax losses. My wife is not into gambling. After analyzing her accounts, I found that she spent most of her money on dinners out, drinks, and shopping with friends. We have been married for less than 5 years and have no children yet. We have plans to start a family in the next couple years. You're not an idiot. Your wife was being irresponsible. When you bailed her out, she had no desire to learn from her mistakes. Len, she and her friends put you in a difficult position, counting on the pressure to make you agree. Any reasonable person would have realized the mess they created. He would have realized that you can't spend money recklessly when you have a $150,000 debt hanging over your head. However, your wife's behavior speaks for itself. I wish you luck in getting your money back, but honestly, it makes me rethink this area of your relationship. She didn't just spend too much on a vacation and ask you for $1,000 to pay the hotel bill. She must have overspent over the years to accumulate a debt of $150,000. And all this time, she hid her financial problems from you until the situation became critical. This doesn't promise anything good for the future because she's basically been misleading you about her finances for years. The fact that she would even consider going on a trip with friends with this kind of debt shows that she still doesn't realize the gravity of the situation. Frankly, I think your actions were too lenient. I would insist that she sell the car and purchase a used car for $3,000. Let her drive the old car for as long as necessary, or let her start learning the local bus schedule. Please help her find a therapist. She clearly needs professional help. My next story. I just started college and live in a college dorm. My roommate was chosen at random. She and I have different habits. I like to stay up late, while he prefers to go to bed early and get up early. At the beginning of the school year, she informed me of her routines and sensitivity to sleep. I, in turn, confessed my habit of staying up late. We came to an agreement. He can turn off the lights when he sees fit, and I will try not to make any noise afterward. He usually goes to bed between 9 and 11 p.m. As a sign of respect, I also go to bed at that time, although I don't sleep in. Usually 2 or 3 nights a week, including one weekday, I don't sleep at home. After coming home between midnight and 3 in the morning, I quietly go to bed. However, about 3 weeks ago, a neighbor expressed her displeasure with my late return. She asked me to come home before midnight. My friends laughed at this, as I was already trying to leave earlier from parties and events out of respect for him. However, there were exceptions. One Monday night, while playing board games with friends, I didn't notice how the time flew by. When I saw that it was 1:30 in the morning, I decided not to go home to avoid disturbing my roommate and stayed the night in the common room. I returned in the morning at 8 o'clock in order to make the 9 o'clock meeting. That same day, I received an angry text from my roommate asking me to return no later than 8 in the evening. I replied, apologizing for the inconvenience, but explaining that I had spent the entire night out of the house so as not to disturb him. I also pointed out that despite my willingness to compromise and return almost every night at midnight, I sometimes have to stay out late. Last night I received a text message. It said that she had set up a meeting with our resident assistant. She wants him to mediate between us. I really want to see if I'm right about this situation. You are certainly not to blame for the situation. Your room is your personal space where you have the right to come and go as you please. You pay your tuition and living expenses, just like your roommate. It is unrealistic to expect your roommate to control your actions because everyone has rights. She has no right to set limits on when you can come home, as she is not your guardian. If she prefers to get up early, that is her choice. Provided you show respect for her regimen, you are free to come home at any time, and it should not be her concern. If she is bothered by noise, perhaps you should use earplugs or a sleep mask. Her demands sound overly controlling and even annoying. You don't have to obey her every whim. I am struck by the insolence and odd behavior of your neighbor. I have tried to be sympathetic to her, but such behavior leaves little room for understanding. I imagined that the argument might be about something minor, like using headphones to watch movies at night. However, the neighbor is exhibiting an excessive amount of control that is difficult to justify. I would like to be an unseen witness to your upcoming meeting with the resident assistant. A story that really surprised me. I'm 40 years old, I'm a woman, I have a daughter. She's still a teenager. I wouldn't say she looks like a typical boy, but she has activities that are traditionally considered masculine. The occasion for this story is those very masculine hobbies, and my mom's age, she is 63. Mom holds on to old-fashioned attitudes. My daughter used to be into sports, active during the winter and fall months. When she would come home from basketball practice covered in sweat, Mom would wry her face. She told me that such an appearance, sweaty and unkempt, spoiled the girl's image. That said, Mom never made these comments directly to her daughter, only to me, so I didn't pay much attention to it. One Saturday, my husband, son, daughter, and I attended a semi-formal event. My daughter chose a beautiful green dress for the occasion. However, my mom had a problem. My daughter did not use makeup. My mom told her that she didn't look feminine enough. Before my mom could sit down, I asked her to get her phone and call someone because she couldn't stay here after saying that. My brother arrived just in time and drove Mom away. Now I wonder if I was overreacting to her words. My daughter didn't even seem to be affected by it. She even thought I could have just ignored my mom's comment. You are not an idiot. You did the right thing. I'm 61 now, and I vividly remember how oppressive the demands for feminine behavior could be in my childhood. My brothers were never taught to be gentlemen, except when it came to their behavior with girls. But my behavior, in turn, was restricted by numerous rules of femininity. Such standards were unfair in 1969 and remain unfair today. While a young teenage girl in 1969 could only wear nail polish, and not always, your mother seems to have developed her own ideas about femininity that were not considered the norm even then. Femininity in the 60s may have been more accepted by the older generation than my parents, but I happily refused to follow those outdated views and chose my own path. Your daughter will probably do the same, but it's still best to be careful. Your mother expresses her displeasure at girls playing sports as if she were living in 1850. A girl of 13 doesn't have to wear makeup at all, and many girls that age aren't even allowed to do so. However, your mom insists that she should do it every day. Make no mistake, your mom's comments are definitely hurting your daughter, but she knows you are on her side. You serve as a shield between your daughter's heart and your mother's outdated judgment.